Welcome back to RBD Block Challenge. I'm Cindy Cloward, and today we are working on block number 10. Congratulations if you've got this far. This block is called Time Waits for No One, and it's designed by Karen Walker. And you can see why the reference of time, because there is this hourglass block in the center with these smaller hourglass blocks around all four sides. It's a really pretty block that comes together quite easily. It looks a little more complicated than it actually is. So let me take you through this block, but first let me show you the petite version. Equally as beautiful, right? So today I'm working with our confetti cottons. I've already downloaded the pattern on the Riley Blake Designs website. Time Waits for No One. And it has the instructions. And the first thing it tells you in the instructions is to create your 2 at a time half square triangles. Now you've become a pro at these half square triangles, but we've got a quick animation video for you to look at as you're grabbing your A and B squares. So take a look at this video. And I've chosen to chain piece all my half square triangles. It's just a way to save time and thread. And now you just need to clip between all your squares. We're going to do this really quickly. And now we're going to cut down the middle of our half square triangles. So get your 1/4 inch plus ruler. And just use that as your cutting guide right down the center. And we're going to take these to our pressing station. We're going to press them open, but we're going to press all of them to the dark side, and you can kind of finger press them open. And then I'm going to take it to my pressing station. Since you're a pro at these half square triangles, I'm just going to show you working on one unit. I'll get these others done off camera. So let's take these to our pressing station, pressing them to the dark side. Let that cool off under our clapper. Now that we have our half square triangles all pressed and ready to go, we need to trim them to 3.5 inches. And it's easiest to do it with our rotating mat and our trim up ruler. So I usually pull those to one corner, pull the ruler to one corner, and I'm just going to trim around this little unit right here. So that's ready to go. And there's just a small amount to trim down to. So we're going to trim it here. Oh, didn't quite grab that corner. Let's get that right there. I'm going to clean this off, put it down here like that. So we'll put that under there. Now I'm going to show you how to create this hourglass unit. And you're going to do it 2 at a time with your 2 half square triangles. And you've pressed them to the dark side, so they're going to nest beautifully. So you're going to nest these 2 half square triangles like this. And you're going to mark corner to corner the top side and pull it back, and you can see you're going to get 2 hourglass units. So I always just make sure I've got that lined up really well. And you can even put a pin in if it feels like it's going to shift on you. You can pin it on both sides because you do want those seams to nest so you have this hourglass touching in the middle. And then you just mark it corner to corner, or use your Seam So Easy guide. and that's ready to go. And that is going to be your guide, not your sew line, and you're going to sew a 1/4 inch on each side, very similar to your half square triangles 2 at a time method. So let's take it to the machine and sew. All right, take it back to your cutting station, open it up again before you cut, and make sure you have that point lined up on both sides. That's just what we want to see. You can flip on the other side and it's ready to cut down the center. Again, I recommend you chain piece and do them all at once, but since I'm just showing you one example, I just have one to show you. So I love this 1/4 inch plus ruler because you can cut down the middle and then cut your dog ears. And cut your dog ears now or later, but since I'm right here, I'm going to cut my dog ears right there. There we go, flip that over. And flip that over there. Okay, we can open it up like this. You can kind of finger press it open. And make sure those are good to go, and then give them a quick press at our pressing station. There we go. Okay, it's also very important to trim down these little hourglass units to 3 inches. And I use this ruler instead of a trim up ruler because we don't have an exact 3-inch ruler. And you can either use the 3.5. I'm going to actually choose to use the 5.5. You can see a little bit more around the edges. So we want this to be 3 inches. So you got your 3-inch markings, and there's this little center mark right here. So that's 3 inches right there. I'm going to line that up in the center of that. So that's 1.5 inches in, and right on that. And I'm going to trim on 2 sides. So that's trimmed on 2 sides, and you think that's hardly anything, but it adds up when you have 12 of those units. So this is an important step to do when creating these hourglass outer units. Okay, again, it's not much to trim off, but that's ready to go. Now we're going to trim up the other one. And we've made 2 of these hourglass units at a time. There's very little to trim on this. Okay, those are good to go. I'm going to finish these half square triangles, and I'll meet you back here with my finished units. Okay, that's good to go. That is our last hourglass unit. Let's move this out of the way. We'll put these units over here, and now let's work on our last hourglass unit that will go in the center of this quilt block. We're going to take the white square and mark it corner to corner and make our 2 at a time half square triangle. I'll meet you back here when I've got this sewn. Okay, let's bring this back here. We're going to trim down the center just like that. And now we're going to open this up. Now I'm going to finger press to the dark side. In fact, let's take it to our pressing station. and press to the dark side. Set those stitches and then we'll open it up. Looks great. Okay, let's bring them back here, and now we're going to nest those seams. Because they're both pressed to the dark side, that's going to be opposite. And just, you can just feel those click into place. And again, sometimes they feel a little shifty. I just kind of throw a pin on each side because you want our points to line up perfectly. Again, it's very similar to it's the exact thing that we just did, but it's just a bigger scale. Mark corner to corner. Make sure that doesn't shift. Okay, now this is our sew guide, and just like our last hourglass units, we're going to use that as our guide and sew a 1/4 inch on each side to make 2 units. All right, let's take our pins out. Let's draw down we'll put our ruler down the center, and we're going to cut down the center. And you do have an extra square. Now you can make so many things from your extra squares. You can make its own quilt, or it can go in the back of this quilt. Sometimes my extra squares, I just use them on back of quilts. But you only need one. So put one to the side, and then you're going to open this up. And you can do this little trick where you open that up. So you can press opposite sides so it lays flat. So that is a fun little trick to do the center of your hourglass units. So it looks like that, and you can press it like that. Okay, let's bring it back, and we need to square it up to 5.5 inches. Got my trim it ruler. You just line that center line with that hourglass. Lines up beautifully. And you're just going to trim everything on the outside of the trim up ruler. You just move your rotating mat around in a circle until it's trimmed up. And there's grips underneath this trim up ruler, so it should hold still for you. Okay, let's see if we got, oh, it looks like we got a couple little edges that are still clinging on. So let me trim, there we go. Okay, good to go. This unit is ready for the center of our block. And now we're gonna arrange all of our other little hourglass units around. Now it tells you to kind of make them in rows and sections. So these two, kind of follow your pattern, make sure they're going the right way. So I need to sew these two together. And that's gonna go like that. Placement is important. They flip opposite. And then I'm gonna need to do this row. So this is gonna go up to the side. Now that everything's laid out, do a double check and make sure everything's positioned correctly according to the pattern. And I can already see that I need to flip this center unit this direction. So it tells you to work in sections at a time. I'm gonna sew those units together, those units together, these, and then I'll put it in the center. Just look at your pattern, how you assemble. I am going to flip these two over, and depending on how you've pressed your seams, see if they will just nest up. Most of the seams are going to be flipped to the dark side, but there is going to be one that's going to be flipped to the light side. So just do your best to nest your seams and adjust them as you're sewing along the way. And if you choose to open up your seams, that's a great way to assemble your block and line everything up. But if you can nest your seams, it will ensure that these intersections, these little areas right here, are gonna all line up. It's a lot of intersections, so just do your best to line everything up. Okay, I'm going to cut that thread in the middle. Again, look at your diagram. I'm just going to finger press open. This is what you want to see. You just want to see those points lining up. That goes on that side. That goes on this side. Again, I'll just finger press that open. Now we're going to flip that over like that. If it doesn't quite nest, you can flip a seam if you'd like. Again, some people choose to open up their seams and do it that way, whatever works for you. Okay, I'm going to take the machine and sew both sides. Okay, let's go to our pressing station. Go to nice press this way. I'm going to press towards my hourglass center block. Seems to want to lie that way. Press it that way, and we'll press it this way. There we go. Okay, so this section is sewn. We're going to put it down right here. I did want to mention, I flipped one of my seams to nest it. So I've got kind of this funny lie. It's okay. No one's going to see the backside of your quilt. And no matter how you put your seams together, it's going to work out just fine. So I've got that section done. Now I'm going to just sew these two sections, and I'll meet you back here to do my final seam. So we've got our final strip sewn. So now we need to sew these two sections to our middle section. And I'm going to flip them this way. I haven't pressed yet. And again, I'm liking how it's falling into the center. So I'm going to flip my seams so they nest. So that's going to flip that direction. And then this is going to flip. So that goes into the center. It goes into the center. I'm going to flip it that direction to nest those intersections. There's going to be a little bit of bulk there. It doesn't matter which way this flips in the center. So you can just pin it whichever direction it wants to lie. And we'll flip it over to the opposite here. Again, making sure, actually, I'm not going to flip it because then I might mess myself up on which direction everything goes. So again, it's important. Placement is important. So I'm going to flip it that way. Now I can flip it over. Got to pay attention where the directions of those hourglasses are going. So I'm flipping that to the center. So I'm nesting those seams there. Flipping it that direction, nesting that seam. Again, you can finger press those however you want them to go. So you can see that seam is going to the dark side, and then I've got to just press that seam open, or to the dark side there. So I'm going to press that there. That is going to the light side. So if you want to flip that seam, you can. Just changes things a little bit, but again, no one's going to see the back side of your quilt. What our goal is to have our block lay as flat as possible. So I'm going to take it to the machine and sew my last 2 seams. Okay, let's take it to our pressing station. Press that down. And my machine had no problem going over those bulky intersections. But if your machine is struggling, maybe you do want to consider opening up your seams, because there is some bulk there, no doubt. Now I'm going to press towards that center. Press that seam going towards the center. Again, if it works better for you to open up your seams, you are the boss of your quilt, and you can do whatever you want. Okay, look how good that looks. The last thing we need to do is just square up our block and take a look. So I'm lining this up, and what I want to see is all my points inside this blue 1/4 inch seam allowance. And it's looking pretty good. I just see one place I might want to just trim a little bit off. It's hardly anything at all. And the time waits for no one block is finished. I can't wait to see what Karen Walker does with her block. And I would love to hear from you in the comment section about what works for you. If you like to open up your seams, if you like to flip to one side, let me know how you assembled this block. And I will see you next time on block number 11. It's called Square Pegs, and it's designed by Amber Johnson.